Hi there, I'm Beth, and today I'm taking a little sidestep to work on something for myself, something I never seem to make time for. I'm kind of working on a few doll cosplay outfits in the background. One is the big Imomodoll guy I have, who I want to style as Sylus from Love and Deep Space. And two others are Jinshi and MaoMao from the Apothecary Diaries. I'm not finishing them today, but I do want to make their wigs. I've got some synthetic hair ready and have gathered the materials I think I'll need. I already painted MaoMao's face up off camera. She's a Hime Annie head from Parabox for my OB50 doll. Jinshi is my T, never gonna give you up smart doll, but I'll be using his head in cinnamon for the wig making today. I'll start with MaoMao and use a couple sheets of cling film to protect the head and face up. I've put her head onto a wooden base with a dowel glued to it to make working on it easier. I use some flesh-coloured stretchy fabric to make the wig cap from, stretching it over the head and securing with little hair elastics. The elastic helps define the hairline and sits over the tops of the ears. I reposition the fabric to try to minimise the wrinkles, then trim away some excess fabric. My goal for these projects is to try to get back some wig making confidence and to practice using hot glue where possible too, without messing it up. Here I try to use hot glue to reinforce the wig cap. Usually I'd use Mod Podge or PVA glue for this, but it takes an absolute age to dry, and I've seen other people do it this way. Well, I'm learning already. Keep the hot tip of the glue gun away from elastic bands. They'll snap. Okay, fresh fabric, same method, but with thicker rubber bands this time, and I'll avoid touching them until the rest is covered. This time it's a success. I mark the back of the wig so I know which way round it goes, and remove it from her head. I carefully peel away the cling film, then trim away the excess to create the hairline. It looks pretty good, but I know I should also paint the wig cap the colour of the hair so it will help hide any thin patches or bald spots. I bought one of those jumbo braids from AliExpress, which has kind of textured, crimped hair in the closest colour I could find for MaoMao. I use small hair straighteners to smooth out the majority of the fibres, and I've also bought silicone finger protectors. I'll need shorter lengths for her fringe, so I cut some hair to turn into glued wefts. I take a smaller section and lay down a bead of hot glue. I quickly lay another bead along the top, then try using a plastic card to smooth out the glue away from the main length of the hair. I use the hot tip of the glue gun to melt the glue and try to push it between the fibres. They'll all have to be caught in the glue, otherwise they'll just fall out. I try combing the weft and I see a little shedding, so I think I had too much hair in this one. I'll try using less hair in the other wefts. I try again, this time just laying one bead of glue to work with. I hold the hair steady and work the glue through all the strands with the hot tip. I lay a small amount more on top and press it in with my silicone fingertip. I'm working on a silicone mat as well, which makes it super easy to peel the glue off of. I flip the weft over and use the hot tip again to get rid of the visible ridge of glue that I can see. The glue remelts easily, and I can redistribute any thicker clumps of hair to get a consistent thickness across the weft. I see no shedding, so can now trim away the excess glue with scissors, leaving enough to hold the hair. I'm already really pleased with this method. For the majority of the hair that'll be covered at the roots, I think it's great. I make up more wefts and mark some guidelines on my wig cap. I'll start at the back of the head, filling in the lower edges. I run a thin bead of glue and can use the hot tip to smooth out any lumpy areas. One issue I see is the paint moving with the melted glue. I should have painted the fabric cap before adding the hot glue all over, then it would stay put. These silicone protectors are fantastic. I don't feel any heat at all through them. MaoMao has a half-up hairstyle, so the front of her hairline will be quite visible. I'll try sticking some wefts facing backwards, with another weft facing back on top of it, so I can bend the hair back to create a clean-looking hairline. I repeat this on the other side of the head. Next, I'll glue in her fringe using shorter hair lengths. I cut away some of the excess to make more short wefts. I use the same layered method to create a mini parting for the longer side sections of her hime bangs. I try to curl in the fringe and trim it too. I use elastics to keep the longer pieces separate. I'll trim them later. Now I'll fill in the upper section. I use a piece of card and just the hot edge of the straighteners to fold and heat in a bend of the hair. I use them to fill in the circumference of the upper hair section. Anywhere I've used straight wefts that need taming, I use the edge of the straighteners again to manoeuvre them. It's feeling a bit bulky, so for her top knot I only use half the hair to bend and trim, and the other part I'll cut shorter to look like it's the tail end. I've trimmed the longer fringe sections and add elastics to the lower front hair pieces. I'll trim them to length, and where she wears coloured beads on these sections, I'm going to wrap them with coloured thread instead. I know there's no chance I can thread actual beads onto this. To cover the bands in the back, I sew up a little tapered blue hair tie that I simply knot into place. And here it is, MaoMao's wig. Far from perfect. If I can find a reasonably priced darker green hair, then I might try to make this again. But at least she's further along now, just needs her outfit. Moving on to the next wig, this time for Jinshi. I found a really good colour match for him with these pre-sewn wefts of straight purple hair. They should be easier to work with, and I'll just need glued wefts for the front of the wig. Against my better judgment, I use Mod Podge to stiffen this wig cap, and despite some heat gun encouragement, it still took ages to dry. While I wait, I start gluing the shorter wefts. I'll be trying to make a natural looking hairline with the hair ends visible in the front. Since hot glue will be too bulky for sure for this scale, I use Mod Podge to secure the hair ends in a very similar way as before. Again, the silicone mat makes removing the wefts a breeze, and the smaller surface area means the heat gun encouragement is more effective. Eventually, the wig cap can be trimmed to shape, although I found it stretched out a little, so I wrapped a little purple thread tight round the edge before I painted it purple to keep its shape. This worked a treat. With the pre-sewn wefts, I can just cut sections to size and glue them on, starting at the back again. Jinshi also has a half-up hairstyle, but I'll try to do it a little differently. I use smaller sections to fill in the upper back of the head, then start curving wefts into a U shape to let the hair follow the natural head shape. I should be able to part the hair into 2 sections easily, and use the glued fringe at the front to hide the final visible weft. The pieces get smaller and smaller until I'm left with this. Now, with small sections of glued weft, I'll alternate the direction they face and fill in the front, sticking them with Mod Podge. This was another real exercise in patience. As the Mod Podge doesn't grip quickly, I had to wait for it to get tacky before I could press it in and remove my hand. For the very few final front pieces, I cut all the dried glue away from a small section of hair. I touched some glue to the tips with a little metal palette knife, and tried very carefully to lay the pieces across the edge of the hairline, leaving a, hopefully, more natural staggered edge to the edge of the wig. You can see it more clearly here. I kind of got carried away with the peak in the centre and will end up trimming this back once dry. Lots of patience needed again. If I touched it before it was dry, some of the sections just fell off and had to be glued again. I carefully use the heat gun to wilt the fringe sections, pulling them forward a touch too. Once cooled, I try to peel away the cling film from the inside. Mostly successful, just one clump to glue back on again. I glued it on without the cling film this time and walked away while it dried. I pop the wig onto the real Jinshi's head and body for better leverage while styling. I section out, trim and feather the ends of each section of his hair. He wears a bao or odango style bun cover at the back of his hair, and I want to make it so I can clip it on. I use a tiny claw clip and I bulk out the sides a little with hot glue. The increased surface area will be enough to wrap the faux bun around. I hand stitch it simply with a circle of white jersey and a little stuffing in the middle. A running stitch lets me gather it and clip it into place. I finish off the back of his hairstyle with 2 little strands, wrapped in coloured thread again to mimic the beads he also wears. Jinshi is also not fully finished. Since I'm making the robes and embellished trim in the background, it's happening very slowly. He just needs the trim done and some shoes made, and he'll be finished, I think. Do let me know in the comments below if you're keen to see these 2 all finished. Give me some encouragement. I love the Apothecary Diaries, light novel and anime, and I think the height difference between these dolls makes a fairly good representation of my favourite ship, Jinmao, even if the styles of their faces don't quite match. Well, that's all for this week. Thank you all for watching, and a huge thanks to all of my Patreon supporters. I hope you'll leave a like, subscribe, and a comment below to let me know what you thought of this week's wig making project. Take care of each other, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!